Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, join us and gather around the virtual water cooler as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all that sorts of good stuff. And I'm, of course, if you're going to talk about good stuff, joined by Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing, sir?
John, I'm pretty good. You know, I went out to the battlefield at Winterfell and I actually found the Night King's armor, so I brought it home. I'm having it dry cleaned.
Did you happen to find the picture at all? Because nobody could see it. Nobody could see it at all through the entire...
That's why I love physical media, because it's not compressed. You don't have the digital artifact.
Now, that was post-production's responsibility. They should have done it right, and they should know how people are watching it.
Oh, I think the post team
should have done it right.
It's your cable provider. It's the way it's being
piped.
It's
the Nope, you know how it's being broadcast. You got to post it for that anyway. Also joining us, somebody who I'm wondering if she actually got around to watching the most recent episode of Game of Thrones, is Ashley Whalen. Ashley, did you actually finally have a chance to watch it?
Yes, I watched it yesterday as soon as I left here, and we disagree, Rob, I feel like, because I loved that episode, and I thought it was amazing, and I think I read that you weren't so into it. Is that right?
Not that into it.
Come on.
Really?
I was like,
was
my
great.
God. I had to literally call my friend immediately. We were FaceTiming and talking about every detail of it. It was incredible. I mean, I don't want to spoil anything because I know some of you out there haven't seen it.
That's right. I guess we shouldn't go into a spoiler discussion here. But listen, guys, we'll
have to talk later.
a lot of stuff that we do need to talk about here today. And we're going to start off talking about this. It's been reported, we talked last week a little on the movie news feed about that, how John Singleton was in ICU, apparently had a stroke. It's now a sad, and it's official, John Singleton has passed away at the age of 51. Robert, when you think of a director like John Singleton, you know, and him passing at such a young age, what sorts of thoughts go through your head?
Well, I was at USC when he was there, and it's just very, very sad. And I only met him a couple times, but it was, something like this. You don't see it coming, and it hits you like a bolt of lightning. And it was. John Schnepp also passed away at 51 this past year, and it just really makes you take stock of your life, and you have to realize that you can't wait for things to happen. You have to. I mean, John lived a pretty full life. He had kids, and he had made many films, and he was sort of, I guess, living the dream. And to see it all taken away so quickly, you never know. When
you're talking about Singleton here, you're talking about. Listen to this. First of all, in recent years, he's been very active in television. He was doing things. He did Snowfall. He did episodes of Billions. He did episodes of Rebels, American Crime Story, Empire. He directed the Marion Jones Pressure Pause for 30 for 30. And, of course, he did movies. Obviously, the big one that he did, of course, is Boys in the Hood, that really put him on the map. Poetic Justice, Higher Learning. He did Shaft, which I know you like. He did Too Fast, Too Furious, Four Brothers. He was a very influential filmmaker, and particularly in the time that he came up with, and he kind of became a standard bearer in many ways, and we know he was working on more projects moving forward, and this all kind of came out of nowhere very suddenly. Very sad. Once again, John Singleton passes away at the age of 51, and all of us here at the John Campea Show, our most heartfelt condolences out to the friends and family and those who actually knew John Singleton. All right, with that down, let's move on to some movie news stuff. Rob, a trailer dropped this morning. We got a trailer for Sonic the Hedgehog, which actually came out and hit online today. It dropped, and I'm going to tell you what, I'm seeing everybody talking crap about it. I actually read some people talking about Sonic the Hedgehog before I clicked on it. And a lot of people didn't like it. I thought, ooh, this is going to be a train wreck. And I opened the trailer, and I watched it. Now, you have to understand something. I've had zero interest in this movie, other than the fact that they attached Jim Carrey to be a part of it, which I thought was pretty interesting. I really haven't had a lot of interest in this film at all. I didn't play a lot of Sonic, to be honest. I played a lot of the other era's games. I didn't play much Sonic. I actually thought it was kind of cute. Don't get me wrong. I am not sitting here saying this is a great trailer. I'm not saying that. But considering I was expecting something really, really bad, and I always love seeing James Marsden in just about everything, I thought it was kind of cute the way they did the speed stuff, the way they incorporated some of the music, the way they incorporated some of the sound effects that are very nostalgic and all that kind of stuff. Look, was it great? No. but I thought it was at least a little bit cute, and I got to admit now I'm at least a little bit interested in this film. What did you think about it?
It looks like a movie that came from like 1994 to me. You know, with the in my world, there's no verisimilitude in this movie. But one, I love James Marsden; he's great, and I have to say, you know, Jim Carrey is doing the perfect performance. If I was like 10. You know, he literally is this mustache twirling villain. And you know, when we were at CinemaCon, Paramount did a big presentation on this movie, and Jim Carrey was there, and he came out sort of in character with this big tub of popcorn. He's flinging popcorn into the audience of theater owners and stuff, and you know, they were really promoting this film hard. But it looks to me like this weird throwback to a different time. I don't know who the audience for this movie is. I mean, if you liked it, maybe the audience is broader than I thought. Maybe the nostalgia factor is something that's there. I mean, I thought in the trailer, I love the line, see the genesis of the character or whatever.
Yeah, that was clever.
I was like, okay. But I looked at this and I'm like, it's not for me. You know, it's not. And Sonic isn't exactly blazing up the game charts for young gamers today, is it? Are people playing Sonic?
I honestly don't know. And let me be very clear again. I'm not saying this was a great trailer. I just thought it was cuter than I thought it was going to be. Ashley, you had a chance to watch it. What did you think about this trailer?
I didn't think he was cute. I thought he was kind of annoying, but I don't know. I just, it kind of, his character at Sonic kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And then Jim Carrey, like Rob was saying, yeah, I was like, is this, I wanted to know if it was PG. Like, it just seemed so Nickelodeon to me, but
right.
I grew up playing Sonic. I loved Sonic. I would beat all of them. I grew up with Sega, Joe Montana, Mortal Kombat. I was obsessed. And so there is like that, when he ran through the ring, or someone dropped through a ring in the trailer, that made me like smile, because I was like, oh, the rings, and I started thinking about all the different levels in Sonic. But other than that, not yet. Maybe in the next trailer, I'll be more on board.
Rob, you were telling me, because I couldn't make the Paramount one. What did you think? What were some of the things they showed us in the Jim Carrey cut that maybe weren't in this one?
Yeah, they did. What I should explain that Jim Carrey comes out and goes, wait a minute, this movie's supposed to be about me. And they actually recut a trailer. They should drop this online as part of marketing, of just his character, and it's recut as if he's the hero of the movie. And there was a lot more stuff of just him than we saw in this trailer. But it was pretty, I mean, but it was Jim Carrey in sort of Ace Ventura mode. And it was funny. I mean, look, Jim Carrey is clearly delivering a very committed performance in this movie. And the Jim Carrey, Mr. Robotnik, or I don't know if it was, well, I think it was just
Dr.
called Robotnik.
Yeah.
You know, just Robotnik. And it was funny that they made this trailer. It really sold the gag, and I hope they do more of that. But even looking at this, I'm like, it's just not the kind of thing that I would watch at this point in my life. You know, it's not for me, but for what it is, it looks fairly amusing. I mean, the idea of having a CG Sonic, just why didn't they make a more, I guess you really can't. You can't make a more realistic Sonic that isn't a CG character. I mean, it would have been cool to see a practical, physical
that's
E.T.
impossible. But
Is it?
It's absolutely impossible.
I don't know, man.
What do you mean you don't know? How can you possibly have a physical in costume Sonic the Hedgehog?
Well, you do
doing
both.
anything?
You have a physical model.
Okay, a mix. So kind of like what they did with Yoda in the prequels, like a little bit practical.
But the design of this character.
I thought you were talking about just doing full out
No. But the design. What I mean is the design of this character looks like it's animated, and everything else isn't. And it's not like Roger Rabbit animation or Detective Pikachu animation.
I thought it was very much Detective Pikachu animation.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah, well, we'll have to wait and see, I suppose. All right.
Well, you can.
Let's now go move on to the next little bit of stuff here. Avengers Endgame, of course, is in theaters right now, and it is tearing things up. We already know it's destroyed the opening weekend box office. Something we will never see happen again. We'll see the record broken. We will never see the record broken by $100 million. This is never going to happen again for the rest of Hollywood history. I can just guarantee you that. Well, I guess you can't guarantee anything, but it seems impossible at this point. The steamroller continues, as is now being reported that it whirled into Monday, and you expect a big significant drop. It took like a 55% drop from its Sunday. Of course, it's not the weekend anymore, but it still is, according to reports, the third biggest opening Monday in the history of cinema, falling only behind a couple of other movies. It fell behind Black Panther, which is the number one opening Monday of all time. That made $40.15 million. The Force Awakens is the second biggest opening Monday at 40.1. And then, of course, you've got Avengers Endgame coming at the number 3 spot at $37.6 million. Now, I would understand totally anybody going, wait a minute, time out. How the hell does Endgame break the opening weekend box office record by $100 million and yet come in third on its opening Monday? The answer to that, to me, is actually pretty damn simple. It's a 3-hour movie. It's a 3-hour movie on a work night. So that, you got to take that into consideration. So I think you're going to see a really, really strong second weekend for this movie, but I'm actually not all, well, I'm a little surprised. I still expected it to beat Black Panther for the first Monday, but you can't be overwhelmingly surprised because now we're talking about a 3-hour movie on a school night, on a work night, that sort of thing. So I'm not completely surprised by this, but a remarkable showing, a 3-hour movie making $36 million on a Monday. It's just nuts. Rob, you see these figures. What's your first impressions?
Well, I like you. I mean, there's still huge numbers because it's not, when you think 3 hours as opposed to 2 hours, in a 6-hour period of time, you could show a 2-hour movie 3 times.
Right.
And you can only show this movie twice. So the fact that it made as much money as it did is still astonishing. And the pre-sales for weekend 2 are huge.
Yeah.
They're predicting, I mean, they're talking $180 million weekend.
They're saying it's possible.
2. Unbelievable.
Which would be between a 50 and 60% drop, which is where we've all been figuring it would come in. But I mean, how many movies in history have made $180 million on their opening weekend? Let alone their second weekend.
Not many.
I mean, it's small. You can put them on your 2 sets of hands. That's about it. So again, remember, I remember this happened with Captain America. Captain America came out, or not Captain America, I'm sorry, Captain Marvel came out. And it took like a 60-something% drop on Monday. And all the boo birds were, of course, oh, see, nobody likes it. Took a 60% drop on Monday. Well, of course, people aren't going in the day. They got to go to school. They got to go to work. Of course, you're going to see a massive drop off on the Monday. Idiot. I mean, obviously. So we're expecting this. To me, this is a little bit of a smaller drop than I originally thought. I mean, really, when you're talking about a movie that long, you only got evening screenings. You're limited with the amount of evening screenings. I think this number is phenomenal. And I think we're going to see similar things throughout the week. Going to be big numbers, maybe not as big as some other films. And then, like you pointed out, Rob, we're going to get to that second weekend. And that second weekend's going to pop at 175 to 185, somewhere in that neighborhood. Be about a 50 to 60% drop, which we all anticipated and were expecting. And then comes the real test, Rob. Then comes the following weekend when it's actually got a little bit of competition with Pikachu on its way. Now, Rob, I said before when I thought that Endgame would come out about 280, that I thought Pikachu would then take the number 1 spot on that weekend. I don't think that's on the table anymore. I certainly don't think Endgame is still going to be number 1 by the time Aladdin opens. Like when Aladdin opens, that's going to be the number 1 film. But I think we could still see Pikachu put a bit of a dent in that. Do you see much of a threat being posed by Pikachu right now?
Maybe, but from what I've been getting from people, this movie appeals to an older audience as well. There's a lot of people, like myself, that are going to see this movie multiple times. And I think Detective Pikachu is not necessarily skewing toward the older general audience, but I mean, it's going to be interesting. I think Pikachu is going to do very, very well. I don't know if it's going to defeat Endgame again, though.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to defeat Endgame now. It's just that number is just too high. But I think Aladdin will take it out. But of course, Pikachu. Ah, yes, he thinks it's going to be good. Ryan Reynolds thinks it's going to be pretty big too. What'd you say?
Oh, thank goodness for the hat. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to tell which one of us is the detective.
There we go. Pikachu had a few things to say about that. So yeah, I agree. Did
you buy that, John?
I did not. I did not actually. I think Hasbro sent that to Anne. So But anyway, we're going to see Pikachu is going to do well, but I no longer think that's going to be the number one film. I just don't see how it could possibly do that. All right, let's move on now to our main topics, guys. How do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. See, you guys pick them by sending in your topics and questions by going to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. When you're there, fill out the form, hit submit, and maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured here on the John Campea Show. With that out of the way, Ashley, what is our first main topic today?
All right, guys. The first one is from Omar94. Hi, John. Huge fan since AMC from Tallahassee, Florida. Since Avatar, no film has made more money, but Endgame might. If not, however, do you think the sequels will? I know there's been a long delay in people bashing them and the first film, but if they get positive feedback, there's a chance they can do it. I really liked Avatar and can't wait for them. Thoughts? Thanks, and have a nice day.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't remember a bigger question mark around a film as far as how will it perform, how is the audience, where's the audience with this movie? Where's the audience in its anticipation level? Is there an interest level? I've never felt a bigger question mark around a film than I have like Avatar 2 right now. Because obviously we're talking about the first Avatar film. It's the all-time number one box office film in history. Let's take a look at it and put it in perspective. Like we're talking about, this is a number that's always staggered me. You look at the difference between the number 4 all-time box office film, Avengers Infinity War, at 2.04. Then you got the third biggest box office film of all time, Star Wars Force Awakens, at 2.06. Then Titanic at number 2 at 2.1. And then all of a sudden the doors get blown off and you got Avatar at 2.78, almost $2.8 billion, which is crazy. Clearly, far and away, the most successful film of all time when it comes to getting the audience out to go to see it. Nothing's ever come close. Not Titanic, not Star Wars, not Avengers, nothing. Now, Endgame now is in the discussion. Endgame very well could catch this movie. I believe Endgame is easily going to pass Titanic for the number 2 spot. Will it make that additional $600 million over top of that to get Avatar? It's possible. It's in the conversation now. But what about Avatar 2? Avatar 2 is one that I've never really been able to get my finger on the pulse of this, Rob, and really figure out, because on the one hand, the first film most successful of all time. On the other hand, Avatar disappeared from the pop cultural consciousness pretty quick. And we haven't heard tons of discussion from people about Avatar, nor a lot of anticipation. But then again, was there a lot of hype and buzz going into the first Avatar film? Remember, the first Avatar film, biggest film of all time. You want to know what its opening weekend was? Rob, do you know off the top of your head what the opening weekend was for Avatar?
65 or something?
Ashley, do you have any idea what the opening weekend for Avatar was? Any guess?
Oh, God, I don't know. Maybe like 50, 60?
You're both close. It was actually $77 million. $77 million was the opening weekend box office. For the biggest film, we just saw, we've had multiple films come out with $200 million openings and never catch the film. And now, of course, we got Avengers Endgame with the biggest of all time at 357 and very much in the running to maybe catch up. But so we didn't hear tons of buzz. There wasn't huge anticipation for Avatar with a $77 million opening, and yet it just went to that height. Wow. Rob, same thing. I'm not feeling a lot of buzz for Avatar 2, but is that just the calm before the storm like it was for the first one? Could Avatar actually threaten getting this new record that Avengers Endgame just set with an opening weekend? And could it catch Avatar 1?
I think it's, first of all, I'd never bet against James Cameron.
Yeah.
He really hasn't failed us in terms of his career. Everyone said, Terminator 2 was the first $100 million movie. And it was basically made in 9 months. They had 9 months to get it in the theaters. And everyone's like, it worked. True Lies, that worked too. And it's, you look at his career, Titanic was a huge debacle when it was being made. I mean, 2 studios, everybody freaking out. Look where that ended up. Even Avatar, people are making fun of it. Fern Gully in space, it's Dances with Wolves in space, whatever. My mom, I gauge everything by my mom.
I do that too.
My mother was blown away by Avatar. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. She'd never seen an IMAX movie. She'd never seen a 3D movie like this. She saw them when she was a little girl. Her eyes were wide as saucers when it was over, and she couldn't believe what she was seeing. I would imagine James Cameron knows what he has to do in order to show us something we've never seen before, and I'm certain that's where he's going. Is he going to succeed? I think the world has changed since Avatar has come out. Social media has exploded, which didn't exist really when it came out. And now the people gunning for it on social media, there are already people gunning for Avatar 2, just like you said. Oh, it has no pop culture footprint. No, it's got a $2.7 billion footprint in Hollywood history. And everybody went to see Avatar because it was an experience, the way Avengers Endgame is an experience.
It was something we had never seen before.
We'd never seen before. And I think James Cameron might deliver again.
Yeah,
I wouldn't bet against him.
It's still weird to think about this, that one filmmaker right now, at least for the moment, one filmmaker holds the top 2 all-time box office spots.
Yeah.
Let that sink in for a second. And you're right, no one should ever be in the doubting James Cameron business. We just shouldn't. And yet, I don't know. I see Avatar being a billion-dollar film, Avatar 2. I see Avatar being a billion-dollar film. I don't know if I see it cracking the top 5. I don't know if I see it getting to being a $2 billion film like the magical tsunami lightning in a bottle that the first Avatar was. Because, like we just said, Rob, the first Avatar was like something we'd never seen before.
Right.
Now we have. Also, it's been ages since that first Avatar came out, because this next Avatar sequel was supposed to come out like years ago already. Delayed. Now they're making 4 sequels. Who knows if that actually happens. So I think this is going to be a very big, very successful film. I don't see it approaching that $2 billion club like the first one did. Do you?
Probably not. I mean, having not seen anything from it, it still is just a story. It's not like if aliens actually landed on Earth, like if Close Encounters happened for real, maybe the documentary of that event might be that earth-shattering that people would be like, oh, it's real aliens this time. If you filmed that, then maybe I would see, oh, okay, it could rival Avatar. But up now, we have a culture of cynicism. Avatar came out in a time where people they expected that kind of magic. Now, if you tell somebody there's this kind of magic in the theater, everyone's going to fold their arms and go, oh, really? I bet it's not that magical. I mean, we live in a whole different world now. And I don't know if we're capable of human beings as giving Avatar its due. Who knows? Better be damn good. That's all I can say.
All right. Well, with that down and out of the way, Ashley, what is our next main topic today?
Next one is from Matthew. Hey, John, big fan, and I've been following you since the AMC days. After the astonishing, demolished domestic and worldwide box office from Endgame, what also shocks me is the amount of revenue it created for Captain Marvel. Your thoughts on Captain Marvel coming in second for this weekend's box office? Thanks, guys, and keep bringing the great content.
It is crazy when you think about it. Captain Marvel was at the number 6 spot a couple of weeks ago. Last weekend, it jumped back up into the top 5. And then this past weekend, it jumped up to number 2. We have Marvel MCU films right now in the number 1 and number 2 spots at the box office. Huge disparity. One made 357, one made 8. But still, you have the number 1 and the number 2. But it actually goes beyond even that, Rob. Right now, we have 3 comic book films in the top 5 spots at the box office. This has never happened before. Right now at number 5, we got Shazam, which is still holding in there. Again, we have Captain Marvel in the number 2 spot. It's already part of the $1 billion club. And we got Avengers Endgame, which, by the way, is now the number 17 all-time box office film after 5 days. So just wrap your head around that. Rob, I've told this story a couple times, but I still remember back in the early days when me and Schnepp were working together. We were standing at the AMC Burbank 16, and we're just talking about stuff, and we're like, oh my God, do you know that we are going to get 3 comic book movies this year? Like, this is coming out of an era where we used to have to wait a year for a comic book movie, or 2 years for just one. And we were saying, do you know, we're getting 3 comic book movies this year. Crazy. And now in just a short hop, skip, and a jump from that time period to now, we've got 3 comic book movies in the top 5 at the box office at the same time. 4 in theaters. By the way, Hellboy took a massive beating, took a 91% drop in its 3rd weekend. Not doing well. That's going to end up losing them an awful lot of money, but still, 3 films in the top 5. Rob, put this into historical context for us, as far as, because there may be some 18-year-olds watching this like, yeah, we always get lots of comic book movies in a year. It has not been like that for very long.
No. It hasn't been like that for very long at all, much less a film the ultimate comic book movie, the ultimate comic book crossover, a movie that 10 years ago nobody would have ever even believed could have existed, opened to $1.2 billion worldwide. I mean, this is so different. This is it's a massive sea change. But, I think it really speaks to a generational shift because people grew up with these characters starting, in the 90s. A lot of younger fans became fans it was a confluence of things like animation, video games, and then the beginning. Remember when X-Men 1 came out? That was 2000. That was 19 years ago. So let's say you're a kid who's like 6. You're 25 years old now. So a whole generation has built up to Endgame. And it's a new world that we live in. Curmudgeons like myself can lament the fact that, Endgame took over an entire movie theater worth of screens. But I think it's great. I don't think it's pushing out other movies. I think it speaks to where the culture is right now. And it speaks to a generation that grew up with all of this great entertainment we have. And this is an event for them. We haven't seen a cultural event like this before. And I think it's terrific. But it ain't something that was usual. Love this time that we're in now, kids, because it wasn't always here.
Yeah, and again, this whole thing that the end game is just part of the story. And that's just part of it. The fact that we've got another $1 billion film sitting at the number 2 spot. We've got, thankfully, a profitable film for DC and another win in a row for DC with Shazam. All in the top 5. It is absolutely nuts and crazy. Now we're going to have to wait and see, is there a hangover? Is there a hangover? Because now we're going to be coming out of Endgame, all this kind of stuff. We got Spider-Man Far From Home coming. I called that Spider-Man Far From Home would join the $1 billion club. Will it still? Will there be a little bit of fatigue? Not overall comic book movie fatigue, but just for a moment. Is the audience going to feel like they need to take a breath? Is there going to be a hangover? Do you still think that in lieu of, we got 3 comic book films in the top 5 right now, $2 billion films in there right now, one's going to hit the $2 billion mark here shortly, huge Endgame, blah, blah, blah. Do you think there might be a little bit of a period of a hangover by the time Spider-Man Far From Home hits?
No.
Okay.
I think this is a wave that people are going to ride in, and what Spider-Man is it's dessert. Spider-Man is Endgame's dessert, and especially if they deal with the fact, and now I'm convinced they will, that there's all these people talking about. Well,
make sure you don't get into spoilers.
Well, no, but
Okay.
About in terms of Endgame.
Yeah, make sure you don't reveal anything.
Oh, well, okay. Well, there's Peter Parker, the situation after we know he was snapped in Infinity War. And now they're making another movie about him. And I think how they're going to deal with that is going to be interesting, and people are going to want to know. I want to know. My excitement for Spider-Man went up after I saw Endgame. And I think a lot of people's will, because there's questions, and it makes it's part of the story. And I want to know the answers, and I can't wait. And I think most people, who doesn't love, you go see Endgame, let's just say when characters are in the movie, there's a warm, vibrating feeling that comes through the theater, and I think people are going to want to capture that with Spider-Man Far From Home. I
just don't know if the average audiences will. I know us hardcore ones. I'm still going to stick to my prediction that it'll join the $1 billion club. But it will be interesting to see what kind of after effect there is. Because remember, we saw Ant-Man and the Wasp come out just 2 months after Infinity War. It did better than the first Ant-Man, but some might have thought that with the momentum of Infinity War, that maybe Ant-Man could have made $800, $900 million, maybe flirt with $1 billion. There were some conversations. It didn't do that. It made $600 and something million, which is fine. So it'll be interesting to see. But remember, Spider-Man Homecoming made $800 million its first time out. Huge reception. Loved him in Infinity War. Let's see what happens as we roll out of that. All right, with that down, let's move on to the next main topic. Ashley, what's up next?
All right, we got Andrew Santi Benez. Hi, John. Avengers Endgame is incredible, and the critics agree as well. 96% on Rotten Tomatoes, A+ on CinemaScore, and an incredible 9.1 on IMDb. So with that said, do you think Avengers Endgame is Oscar-worthy? I said this. This is Generations Return of the King. What do you think? Big fan, by the way. Keep it up.
All right, thanks a lot for that, Andrew. And I'm going to say something right now. I'll say the unpopular thing. That's fine. I don't mind saying the unpopular thing. I never do. Endgame ain't Lord of the Rings Return of the King. Sorry, folks. It's no Lord of the Rings. Look, I love Shazam. You guys know I love Shazam. It's no Dark Knight. Shazam is no Logan. Shazam is no Infinity War. I love Shazam, but let's not get carried away. I really enjoyed, overall, I super enjoyed Endgame, but it's not Lord of the Rings Return of the King. It's not it's not equivalent to the 11 Oscar-winning, highest number of Oscars ever won by any motion picture in history. Nothing has ever exceeded it. Lord of the Rings Return of the King. It's not that. I think we might be getting ahead of ourselves. However, just because it's not The Godfather, just because it's not Return of the King, that doesn't disqualify it from Oscar conversation. Could Endgame be in the Oscar conversation? First, let's say the obvious thing, Rob. It's way too early to call, because remember, they don't just hand out Oscar nominations in a vacuum. You have to be, it's always in comparison to what other films come out that year, and we've got the majority of the year still to go, including Oscar season, when the really big heavy hitters will come out, and then you got to do it comparatively. So let's just put that out on the table right now. There is an argument to be made for, because number one is this. I think this movie was better than Black Panther. And I really enjoyed Black Panther. I think Black Panther is great. I think Endgame is better. And Black Panther did get a Best Picture nomination. So there's that. At the same time, I don't quite think this film, I know you disagree, and I know many of you do, and that's cool. I don't mind that. I don't think this film's quite as good as Infinity War was. And Infinity War didn't get a Best Picture nomination. I don't think this film's as good as Logan. Logan didn't get a Best Picture nomination. But we are in an era right now where a movie like Black Panther did. Could this type of momentum carry Endgame through? And remember, we're living in an era now, Rob, where it's not just 5 pictures getting Best Picture nominations. It can be up to 10. It's probably going to end up being 9 or 8, but it can be up to 10. Rob, if you were going to set an over-under number on this for the chances that we get to the end of the year, all things understood, I understand all the asterisks, we still got to see what other movies are coming, all that, I get that, but if you had to put an over-under number on this right now, what are the chances, do you think, that come December is when they make the Oscar nominations, when they announce that when that comes, we hear Avengers Endgame nominated for Best Picture? What do you think the odds for that are?
I don't think that Avengers Endgame is going to get nominated for Best Picture.
Really? Black Panther did, but you don't think Endgame will?
Yeah, because Black Panther is a film, again, it was a single person's journey. It was dealing with topical issues, even the elements of colonialism, and there are things in that film that the Academy could get away with voting without it being seen as, oh, you're voting for a comic book movie. This movie is really... This is a balls-to-the-wall, epic, crazy superhero film. And even Lord of the Rings has a literary pedigree. Tolkien is an author that he was a professor at Oxford. I mean, I just don't think the Academy has evolved to the point where they would allow a movie like Endgame to be put in the Oscar conversation. However, I would because I think it's a stunning achievement. And what they were able to do, like you, I don't think that Endgame perhaps had the import of a movie like Return of the King. But for what it did with its subject matter, what it did for fantasy filmmaking, I think it's a staggering achievement. And I think that maybe when there's less... Look, there's still a lot of prejudice against comic book movies taking over the multiplex. That exists.
I think that's disappearing. I think that's
disappearing for
quickly.
Us, but not for the older Academy voter.
The older Academy voter nominated Logan for Best Screenplay. The older Academy voter nominated Black Panther for Best Picture.
Yeah.
The older Academy thing, they nominated Dark Knight for numerous
but totally things. Black Panther and Logan are different films than this film.
I don't know. I think the Academy's changed more than you're giving it credit for. And I think that the film critic base has changed a lot more too. Like quite often now, year after year after year, film critics, some of the highest film critic rated films have been comic book movie years. I think it's changed a lot more than you give it credit for.
Well, the film pundit, film critics, that's a different thing. I'm speaking strictly the Academy.
Yeah, the Academy's changed a lot. I think they've changed a lot. I think a few years ago, Black Panther, doesn't matter what the subject matter is. I think a couple of years ago, Black Panther doesn't get nominated. But I think they've loosened it up.
But it's also the kind of movie that Black Panther is.
I see. Yeah, I agree with that.
Attacks. Whereas this is a movie that's about its own mythology. It's not about issues that that deal with the present day. I mean, it's really a culmination of the universe itself, as opposed to Black Panther. You can point at it, and same with Logan. You can point at it and go, Logan deals with Alzheimer's. Logan deals with a lot of issues that are very real world. Same with Black Panther. But this movie, and by the way, I love this movie. I love this movie more than Infinity War. And I just don't see it being in that Best Picture conversation.
Could you make a case that, you know, it's not so much that when you're talking about movies like Logan and Black Panther, can you say that it's in equal parts? Because I don't believe there's ever been many comic book films that deserve to be in Best Picture
Me neither,
conversation.
by the way.
I mean,
Me neither.
there's that too. I think there's a two-pronged thing here. One is I think that the Academy has been evolving, but also you can make an argument, I think, that Logan was a great example of the evolution of the comic book genre, that the comic book genre is no longer just fan service. It's no longer just pow, bam, whack 'em. And Black Panther, like you talked, went beyond just the traditional comic book movie tropes. We're seeing the evolution of the comic book movie in a really exciting way. At the same time that I think we're also seeing the Academy moving a little bit more towards embracing this sort of stuff. And I think it's a two-road thing. So let me throw a number to you then, Rob. 40% over or under that we see Endgame get a Best Picture nomination when it comes to the end of the year.
I'm going to say under.
Under 40.
I will say this, though. I think Kevin Feige deserves to win the Irving Thalberg Award.
I don't think they'll give one to him this early, but I think within the next 10 years.
22 movies, though?
I think at his age, he's still kind of young. They'll give him one. I 100% agree with you. He's going to get one. I don't think he's going to get one until it's more in the rear view mirror. They tend to give these things out when those great accomplishments are a little bit further back in the rear view mirror. And I agree with you 100%. I think at some point Kevin Feige is going to get that. I think he's going to, one of the biggest honors they give out. I think he's going to get it.
No producer's ever done what he did in Hollywood history. It's never been done.
It's crazy what they've put together here. All right, with that down, let's move on to the next topic. Ashley, what's up next?
Up next is David Harder. The Rock has stated John Cena will be in Fast 9. He was just okay in Bumblebee, and I think his other movies are forgettable. Do you think this is a bad cast for a big franchise? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks.
I'll be honest with you. I like to stay out of the behind the scenes drama. Like I tend to try to stay out of that nonsense. But I cannot help but feel like this just reeks a little bit of behind-the-scenes drama. Look, it's no big secret. Vin Diesel and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson do not like each other anymore. Like that, I mean, that's clear. Dwayne Johnson has made some very hard comments. Vin Diesel's made some very hard comments. I can't help but wonder if this is a little bit of Vin Diesel coming out and trying to upstage The Rock maybe a little bit. And for those of you who are a little bit unclear where we're talking about, Vin Diesel got on social media, which he is one of the most active social media guys out there. And he did this video where he said some things and then just turned his camera and showed John Cena. Here's what Vin Diesel said in this video. He said, "As you know, I'm always thinking fast, and I think about the responsibility of making something iconic and deserving of your loyalty. I know this sounds crazy, but every blue moon I feel like Pablo," that's Paul Walker, "I feel like Pablo up there sends me someone, another soldier for the fight for truth. And today someone came by the Toretto gym that speaks to what Pablo would have brought." And then he just turned the camera and showed John Cena doing his "you can't see me" thing. And that was the end of the video. So for those of you who haven't heard about that, that was the big thing. And that's essentially Vin Diesel saying, we're going to have John Cena in Fast 9. Now, what's interesting here is that we have heard in recent months that The Rock is actually, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has also cast John Cena in a film that he's going to be producing later on. So there's that. Now Vin Diesel swoops in and he says, okay, we're not going to have the big, huge, muscular man for Fast 9. We'll get another big, huge, muscular man in John Cena. We'll put him in there. Look, I don't think John Cena is the world's greatest performer. I think he has some chops when it comes to comedy. I think he's shown he's got some potential doing some good stuff in comedy. But even then, when we look at a movie like Blockers, Rob, when they try to put him as the lead in a comedy, that didn't work so well. Now, thankfully, he had somebody like Leslie Mann there to kind of carry the comedic load, but he just isn't able to carry a movie on those incredibly huge shoulders of his. He's just not at that point. Now, they talked about him maybe being in a Suicide Squad with a director like James Gunn, who knows how to work with guys like this because he did it with Dave Bautista. That can be exciting. In something like Fast, I'm a little bit mixed, Rob, because here's what I think. Number one, this ain't Shakespeare. Fast and the Furious franchise is not Shakespeare. You don't put a Gina Carano and you don't put a bunch of these other people in Fast and Furious movies because of their world-class acting chops, right? You put them in there because they're a name. They could be fun to see in this. And I think nobody's expecting great acting performances out of John Cena from a Fast 9 film. So on that level, it's okay. But it just, a part of me just wonders if a little bit of this is, especially in the comments, like someone who kind of represents truth, as... I thought that was a veiled shot at Dwayne Johnson too, but whatever. I can't help feel that this was a little bit of a personal dig at the same time, but whatever. Cena's stock is rising. He was just in Bumblebee. He's been cast in a couple of other higher profile projects. His stock is rising. This isn't an odd choice for them when you look at the casting history of the Fast and the Furious movies. So I'm kind of middle on the road on this. I see some positives. I see some negatives of it. Rob, what do you think about them getting John Cena in Fast and Furious?
I love this franchise. I've loved this franchise. I thought Fast 5 was the Citizen Kane of this franchise. But I
love that, by the way.
Look, even I have to admit, the Fate of the Furious was absurd. And for me to say that about a Fast and Furious movie, especially after 6, 7, and now this 8, I'd like to see what I really liked about this franchise was the multi-ethnic car culture aspects of this. And that's why I like Tokyo Drift so much. I loved seeing it go to Tokyo and seeing that car culture and meeting the character of Han, who's my favorite, obviously. I just would like to see him kind of rein it in. I see John Cena. It's going to go... I watched the Hobbs and Shaw trailer. I saw it in front of Endgame, and it just... Even that, it's exploded into this... It's cartoon. And I would love to see Fast 9 and 10, if that truly is going to be the last one, sort of brought back down to earth again. Because part of the appeal of the franchise is watching real cars going through real city streets. Not seeing nuclear subs come up and them firing torpedoes and The Rock like pushing a torpedo on the ice. It's like, really? I don't know. That's just
okay.
Me. John Cena is over the top. John Cena is not Dwayne The Rock Johnson. He would make this, I think it would be just too funny. If that makes sense?
Well, I mean, look, they've done other casting like this.
Because I loved him in Trainwreck.
Oh, he was great.
He was great. That was his best role. He was so good.
And in Sisters, he was really funny. It was smaller, but I thought he was really great. I thought he had his moments in Blockers too. But this whole notion of let's bring it back to when it was about cars. Yeah, let's bring it back to when nobody cared about Fast and the Furious. Look, it was you bring up Fast 5 as the Citizen Kane of the franchise.
And it is.
And I personally think it might be Fast 6, but I'm with you a little bit on the Fast 5 one too. I adore that film. But it marked... Fast 4 was kind of a transitional movie where it had one foot in Fast 1 through 3. It had one foot in what it was going to become, so it was a little bit of a transitional. Yeah. Fast 5 was the definitive mark of this is what this franchise is now. This is what this franchise is now.
But and it was still sort of believable.
Very little.
Sort of.
Very little. Very little. There might have been hints of it.
It was still cars on the streets and urban destruction. And it was
urban
cool.
But it was ridiculous at the same time. And have they pushed the boundaries of the ridiculousness? Absolutely they have. But the audience has been loving it and eating it up. Now, was Fast 8 a step backwards? I agree with you, it was. I still had a stupid good time with it. But it was a step backwards from like 7, 6, probably even 5. So I grant that. I'm with you on that. But to go back to when nobody cared about Fast and the Furious, I don't think that's the way to go. And by the way, Rob,
people always cared.
I think you'll agree with me on this, that it is much easier to go from grounded to a little bit more fantastical to more fantastical than it is to go from ludicrously fantastical back down to grounded. That's just a gear shift that will tear the engine apart. I don't think they can do that. Your observation of the casting of John Cena being a manifestation, representation of where the Fast and Furious franchise has come from, where it's gone, I think is bang on the money. I think it's absolutely bang on the money. This is a casting that Fast and the Furious franchise would make. Absolutely it is. But look, this is going to be $1 billion film. It's going to be $1 billion film. And I think if you just take, I think they've come too far and gone too wild to bring it back down to, oh no, I might lose my favorite car if I lose this next race. They've gone so far beyond that.
I'm not saying it's going back to that either. But what was cool about this franchise was the people that were in it. Again, it's the characters. This Dom always talks about family. The fact that it was this interesting multi-ethnic group of characters that had come together to accomplish something. And even Fast Five was set on the streets of Brazil. You know, we're not in the Arctic with nuclear submarines. It's a different thing. Even the Bond franchise, when they went into space, the next movie they pulled it back and it became For Your Eyes Only. And the end takes place on the top of a monastery that's on the top of this rock where people are, climbing a rock. They really pulled it back down to earth. And I think this franchise needs that.
I disagree. I disagree, but who knows? We'll see. Now, they need to step it up from Fast 8. They do need to step it up from Fast 8. You and I are in complete agreement on that, but I think they've found what works for them. I think they found what the audience wants this franchise to be, and that's why the box office and the films lately have been double, sometimes triple what they were in the original 3. I don't think you go back. Well,
I think going back is I'm not saying going back that way. There's a way to go back that still honors all of what's going on. I mean, watching cars raining down on the streets and nuclear submarines.
But that's kind of isn't there an argument you said that that's what the audience now expects and wants from their Fast and Furious franchise? And if you do something that's a little too the other way now, you might disgruntle some audience. And I don't know, we've come a long way from the conversation about John Cena. But
right.
But I think your observation is really bang on. I think you made a great observation about him kind of being the representation of where they are right now, because I think you're right. Fast and Furious 2, they don't cast a John Cena.
I mean, but I would say there's lessons to be taken. Let's go to Endgame. Endgame amped up the emotion, amped up the characters, less action from Infinity War, and it made more money. People, I hate... This is so weird for me to say, but people felt something when they watched the Fast and the Furious movies. They liked those characters. It wasn't just about the outlandish action. It was about these characters as almost like the same way that Western characters made people like them. Dominic Toretto could live in your neighborhood, and you wanted to be that guy. And I think they can't forget that that's what made that franchise great.
And if they didn't continue doing that, the audience wouldn't keep coming out in bigger numbers, and they have, right?
I'm surprised you think it's going to be $1 billion, you said?
Yeah, I do. I think this next one
will
be
the
$1
other
billion
ones were.
film.
The last couple have been.
It's just so strange to me because even when I'm looking at our viewers, like the percentages of questions that come in about the franchise are so small that I would think that would be reflective in the amount of people that are going out to these movies. Because we get so many questions about Marvel and Endgame, but hardly, we do get questions about Fast and the Furious, but nowhere near. It's like a fraction of what Endgame questions we get.
Well, that's true, but at the same time, this goes back to my AMC days. 90% of the emails that come in are about comic book movies. This goes all the way back to my AMC days, where I would often have to tell the audience, hey guys, if you want to increase your chances of getting one of your emails on the show, make it about something other than comic book movies, right? Because that's not unusual that would happen. We don't get a lot of emails in about Jurassic Park, but that's $1 billion franchise as well, right? And there's a lot of interest in Fast and the Furious, and we'll see where they go from here. And I just think the John Cena thing is an interesting thing, but I also think there's a little bit of behind-the-scenes drama.
John, if John Cena brings justice for Han, I'm all for it.
All right, let's move on now to the final main topic today. What's the final main topic today, Ashley?
Final one is from Paul James Kapsinkas. Hi, John, love the show. I was wondering, do you think James Gunn knew the ending of Avengers Endgame while writing Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and he took that into consideration when writing the script?
Yeah, a lot of people forget, with all the James Gunn drama that's been going on for a long time, we forget that he actually wrote the script for Guardians of the Galaxy 3 ages ago, long before they fired him, long before they brought him back on. He had written the script for Guardians of the Galaxy 3 forever ago. So the question is, did all the way back then, years ago, literally years ago at this point now, did he already know the ending of Endgame? The answer to that question is an absolute definitive yes. Of course he did. He knew exactly where that was going. Remember, at that time, before he got let go by Disney and then later brought back, he was kind of starting to shepherd the overall galactic direction with working under Kevin Feige, obviously, he was kind of shepherding the galactic direction of all that kind of stuff. So these directors always had to be in at least minimal consultation with each other, so they knew where each individual films were going, so they wouldn't write a script that is completely undermined by the previous film that comes out. Now we got to start from scratch. They knew where they're going. James Gunn, going into writing the script for Guardians of the Galaxy 3, had to know where's the universe going to be by the time this movie comes out, because if we're going to have X character and X character and X character dead, and then I've got them written as main characters, we got to figure that out. So I don't think there's any doubt that he knew well in advance, probably even long before he even started writing the script for Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I don't know, Rob, am I reading too much into that, or how do you see that?
Well, I mean, I don't necessarily think so, but I don't. It's funny because in this universe, you don't have to be beholden to what necessarily happened. They could open the movie and Thor's gone.
Remember, let's not give anything away about the movie.
Right. Well, okay, because the question in itself, I was just saying
Yeah.
that. But if okay, there's characters in it. Just because one movie ends one way, it doesn't mean the next movie won't just pay lip service to the way you don't need to necessarily see anything. But I think you're probably right. I mean, in order to do what they did with both Infinity War and Endgame, there has to be some synergy, because all of these characters, there's so much going on that refers back to other movies, and there's things that had to have been set up and things that have to be paid off. So I would think it's probably a good bet that James Gunn knew something about the direction of these films. And it looks, as far as James Gunn's sensibility, I think that where Endgame leaves off probably plays into that.
It probably does.
So why not?
All right, guys, that will do it for our main topics today here on the John Campea Show. We're going to go over and start taking your live questions here in just a second. But before we do, there's a lot of other things going on in the world of movies and television and stuff like that we don't have time to go into as main topics. But we want to make sure we get you guys caught up on all the things that are going on. So here's a little installment presented by fact checker Jonathan himself, a little thing we call the movie news feed. Here, check this out.
First up, Stolen Picture Production Company has purchased the rights to Ben Aronovich's The Rivers of London series to be adapted for TV. The production company was formed 19 months ago by Shaun of the Dead's and Hot Fuzz's Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. The Rivers of London series follows Peter Grant, an ordinary police constable turned magician's apprentice, as he solves crimes across the British capital with a blend of urban fantasy, mystery thriller, and fantasy caper. The franchise has sold over 2.5 million copies worldwide. From Deadline, Frost explains, "Suddenly we were in a position where I said, there's this book that I loved, and it became available, more or less. I was chuffed to bits that I could get the rights to make it into a TV show. Everyone wants to potentially find the next Game of Thrones, and the chance to turn Rivers of London into an 8-hour movie and hopefully find someone who will financially back that is a real draw." Pegg followed up, "TV has entered an era where sprawling book series such as Rivers of London can now be adapted faithfully. This era we're in now, TV, has suddenly evolved into something far more cinematic, where you can tell stories and elaborate. The first book will become the first season, but Aronovich said that in future seasons they may potentially put more than one book together. It will likely be 8 or 10 episodes in its first season. The team is currently at the assembly stage of the process and has not yet put together a wider writing team or gone out to pitch to broadcasters or SVOD platforms." Next up, Universal Pictures and CJ Entertainment are teaming up for a remake of the hit Korean comedy Extreme Job, with Kevin Hart eyeing the starring role. From Variety, the story follows a team of narcotics detectives who go undercover in a fried chicken joint to stake out an organized crime gang. But things take an unexpected turn when the detective's chicken recipe suddenly transforms the rundown restaurant into the hottest eatery in town. The film was released in January in Korea and has since become the top-grossing film of all time, earning $127 million in South Korea. The pick will be the second collaboration between Hart, CJ Entertainment, and Universal Pictures on an English-language remake of a Korean hit. Hart and CJ are also developing the female-driven dramedy Bye Bye Bye. Next up, the writing, producing, and directing duo Phil Lord and Chris Miller are moving their overall deal from 20th Century Fox TV to Sony Pictures TV in a 5-year deal. From The Hollywood Reporter, under the pact, Lord and Miller will create and develop their own comedy and drama projects for broadcast, cable, and streaming, as well as supervise other writers' projects. Additionally, the pair will also be involved in developing a suite of television series based on Sony's universe of Marvel characters. Those include Spider-Man, Venom, Morbius, which has a live-action feature in the works starring Jared Leto, Black Cat, and Silver Sable. Also possibly on the table, all the beloved characters from Into the Spider-Verse. The pact expands Lord and Miller's relationship with Sony Entertainment, for whom they collaborated on the film studios Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, 21 and 22 Jump Street, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. In terms of Marvel, Sony's potential suite of TV series could rival the long list of Disney-produced shows for Marvel Television. Those include multiple live-action scripted TV spin-offs from the MCU, including characters from Avengers Endgame for Disney+. Next up, fans of Jordan Peele's The Twilight Zone will be happy to hear that CBS All Access has renewed for a second season following the initial release of the first 5 episodes of the anthology's first season. From ComingSoon.net, Oscar winner Jordan Peele's reimagining of the classic sci-fi horror anthology features an ensemble cast that consists of Peele, director of Get Out, as the host, Seth Rogen of Invincible, Greg Kinnear of Brigsby Bear, Kumail Nanjiani of The Big Sick, John Cho of Searching, as well as many others. The original The Twilight Zone was a journey into a wondrous land of imagination for 5 years on CBS, from 1959 to 1964. The Godfather of sci-fi series, the show explored humanity's hopes, despairs, prides, and prejudices in a metaphoric way conventional drama could not. Season 1 of The Twilight Zone is currently streaming on CBS All Access, with new episodes released every Thursday. And finally, fans of the Fantastic Beasts series will have to wait a little longer for the third installment, as it is being reported that the film's release date has been announced to be November 12, 2021. This is a full year later than previously expected, as The Crimes of Grindelwald was released 2 years after the original film, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. From Cinema Blend, it was announced a few months ago that Fantastic Beasts 3 would not go into production this summer as previously scheduled, and would instead start filming in the fall. It seems that the quick turnaround between the first 2 films may be getting the blame for the second film's poorer performance, and it was decided the third film needed more time to prep. The announcement of the date, posted on Pottermore, also confirms that the Fantastic Beasts franchise is still part of a 5-film series. There was some question as to whether or not we would still get all 5 announced films in the Fantastic Beasts series after the most recent movie, Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald, became the lowest grossing movie in the entire Wizarding World franchise. It became the first movie to do less than $200 million domestically, and the first to do less than $700 million globally. Hopefully the additional time will result in a larger box office take for Warner Brothers. And that will do it for today's installment of the Movie News Feed.
And now you are all caught up to date on all this stuff going on. Special thanks to fact checker Jonathan for producing that and putting that together for us. All right, guys, with that stuff down and out of the way, we've now got a lot of live questions that you guys have been sending in. So let's not waste any more time and go over to our live questions. Ashley, what is first up in our live questions today?
We got Jetfire 97, Supernatural Season 4, Episode 18. Chuck said to Sam and Dean, "Obviously, I'm a god, a cruel, capricious god. I toyed with your lives, your emotions for entertainment. I'm shook. Does this change your view on a retconned Chuck?"
No, they evolved the Chuck character a lot. For those of you who may not know, I'm a huge Supernatural fan, massive Supernatural fan. Yeah, it's true. And I hated the season finale, specifically because the way they retconned everything about Chuck. They turned him into something he had not been, all for the sake of setting up their final season. Didn't work for me. And who knows? Hopefully I'll see the final season and it'll start to work for me, because I have never flat out. There's some Supernatural I like more than others, yes, but I've never flat out just plain old disliked an episode of Supernatural, and I flat out disliked that season finale. But who knows? Hopefully it'll get me back on board. All right, what's next?
Samuel Pole, oh my God, Sonic has the same plot as Smurfs.
You're not wrong. Now that you mention it, it really, I mean, we got the Smurf, we've got the Gargamel character, we've got some kind-hearted human that gets involved to help them along the way. You're not wrong. I didn't think about that. You're kind of right, and that's a scary thought. All right, what's next?
Darth Suthius, hey guys, Mr. C, if you want an Endgame hot toy, don't wait too long. Pre-orders could be sold out, and you'd have to look at pricey secondary market.
The thing is, I'm such a cheap son of a bitch, Rob. I'm so cheap. Like, I never want to pull the trigger on buying this stuff. But, look, you are a much more seasoned hot toy and 6-inch scale guy than I am. Do you really need to make sure you get these pre-orders quick? Do they sell it fast?
Yes. I mean, now, okay, here's the thing. In terms of anybody who wants to know what I'm looking at, what I might have pre-ordered.
I might have pre-ordered.
Is the Thanos with the armor and his sword.
Right.
Gamora. Because not Gamora, I mean Nebula, because they haven't made a Nebula before. So you need her for your Guardians of the Galaxy collection.
Of course you do.
The Captain America, they just dropped. Those are the 3 that I've pre-ordered from the upcoming. But, again, they don't come out for like more than a year. So you pre-order them now.
I never pre-order stuff that doesn't come out.
Now, and where you pre-order, the American distributor of these Hot Toys is Sideshow, sideshowtoy.com. I love Sideshow collectibles. I've loved them for a very long time. And you go there, you do have to pay a deposit, usually like a $25 down payment, but then you're assured of getting. It's great. It's like Christmas because you.
So you only have to put down a deposit. You don't have to buy it in advance. You don't have to drop down the full $300.
No.
Okay, that's tempting.
Yeah, you just put a pre-order down. Like for instance, I totally forgot that I pre-ordered the Doctor Strange Infinity War figure because I never bought the original Doctor Strange figure. I didn't, and I pre-ordered it over like a year ago, and apparently it's shipping this week. So then they charge you, which, of course they charge you when rent's due. But, anyway, that's kind of what the fun of it all is.
Do they go up in value, in monetary value?
Oh, my God. Hot Toys is better than most stocks.
Better than Beanie Babies? No.
Oh, yeah.
All right, what's next?
Rinder, after seeing the Endgame box office results, Trump asks Feige and Iger, "Can you pay for the wall?" Feige and Iger reply, "We don't build walls, we break them."
They do, but we're not going to get dragged into a political discussion here on our movie show. That's this cute comment, but we're not going to get dragged into a political discussion right now. All right, what's next?
Sin Vendetta, just saw the Sonic the Hedgehog trailer and cannot wait to watch this train wreck. LOL.
Oh my God, this movie could be horrible. I mean, don't get me wrong. Just because I thought the trailer was cuter than I thought it would be, and I didn't hate it, that doesn't mean the movie's going to be good. Like, I still don't have a lot of high hopes for how good or bad this movie's going to be. We will find out soon enough. All right, what's next?
Darth Suthius, recent Flash trailer shows Nora now becoming bad. Oh boy, here we go with another outplayed narrative.
I don't know if she's turned bad. I think what we saw is something change. And I don't know that we've seen her turn bad. I think the trailers are like a little bit hinting at that, but I think there's something more going on there under the surface. I quite like the last episode of The Flash. This season has not been my favorite season of The Flash, but it is such a marked step up from last season that I've really been quite enjoying it. I've been liking the Nora stuff a little bit more too, so I wouldn't read too much into the trailers just yet. I think there's more going on than what they're showing on the surface. All right, what's next?
Sidious Swift, good morning, folks. Question for y'all. If you could randomly be born into a film's universe, which would it be? Keep up the great work, folks.
Well, look, I'm honestly not trying to just pander to Robert Meyer Burnett here, but the Star Trek world. I mean, it's a society that has become enlightened. It's a society that solved most of its. Now, it's got intergalactic problems, but it's a society that has solved its problems on Earth, all that kind of stuff. It's pretty idyllic. So, I mean, you go into the Lord of the Rings era, you're probably going to die in the first 24 hours, You go into Star Wars, you could be born on Jakku. But the Star Trek world seems pretty good to me. What about you, Rob?
I'm right there with you. I've dreamt of living in the Star Trek universe literally my entire life. But if not that, I wouldn't mind being a superhero in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Well, I mean, she didn't ask if you want to be super. She just which world will you be born into?
Then Star Trek.
You're born into to the Marvel universe. Your world is threatened every other day by a new supervillain, right? So, I'm with you. Star Trek. Star Trek is the world I'd go into. What's next?
Darth Suthius, this can pertain to a film fandom and punditry. In my opinion, the most ignorant piece of argument to use against someone is the following: stay in your lane.
Oh, I know. I just hate it when people. Anybody, fandom, whatever, make excuses or try to discredit somebody else's opinion. It's frustrating. Really, all it is a sign that you're insecure and have no stability with your own opinion at all. That's all that is. And it absolutely drives me nuts. I'm completely with you on that. Because when somebody says something like that, or lines like stay in your lane, or you just don't understand it, or things like that, then instantly in my head I go, oh, you're somebody I shouldn't listen to at all. You're somebody who there's no point in having discussion with because you don't even understand the basic fundamentals of what being a film fan is. So, good. Now I know I can just kind of block you out and talk with other people. So, I'm with you, man. That is something that drives me crazy. All right, what's next?
Murray Reich, seeing Endgame second time tonight in Regal Ewok, which is across the street from Empire, because they also have recliners and freestyle.
Nice.
All NYC AMC sold out seats in recliners except for 3D condoms, glasses, showtimes.
3D condoms. Well, there you go. That's a phrase I've not heard before. But Rob, I know when I desperately wanted to get into an AMC Prime Theater with the leather recliners to see it, but it turns out that any free seats were either in those frickin' 3D theaters, because that's the last place people go. But then I didn't want those. But sorry, I take that back. I know you appreciate 3D, Rob. And I know there's some people who watch the show who also appreciate 3D. But yeah, those were the did you find the same thing when you saw it at Cinema Dome? Was that in 3D or was that just regular 2D?
No, it was 3D. I went to the 3D show in the Dome.
And they did 3D in the Dome. Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder how the mechanic, because they've got
they have laser
screen.
Projection. When Force Awakens opened, they spent like $1 million renovating the theater, because it does have a curved screen, so the curvature reflects on the rest of the screen. So sometimes they've alleviated all of that. So
that's good to know.
It's laser projection. But my favorite 3D, bar none, the best presentation of 3D is IMAX 3D.
Very nice. You guys might hear, I got some construction going on outside. You probably can't hear it, but it's bothering me. All right, what's next?
Topher rocks, more magical, Doctor Strange or Tony Stark?
I go into just how pure magic everything Tony Stark does is now, but it's Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is purely got both feet firmly planted in the mystical, and I'm really excited about Doctor Strange too, and we're going to see where they take this character. All right, what's next?
Yeah, he's my favorite. Ben Jesusa, most people may dislike that Sonic trailer, but honestly, I kind of like it, but I will say it could either suck or just simply be a fun movie to watch.
Yeah, it's true. And Ash, I'm gonna have you point the mic.
Yeah, I felt it. Mm-hmm.
It's true. It can go one of two ways. It can go either of those two ways. It could be a total train wreck, which even though I thought the trailer was cute, it also kind of looks like a movie that's going to be terrible. But it could, if they play their cards right, it could be a fun little time at the movies if they play their cards right. You got Jim Carrey in there. You got James Marsden in there. There's potential. There's potential to do something fun. I just know that I put a lot of money on it that would actually turn out that way. Rob, I know you're feeling pretty pessimistic about it.
Yeah, it's not the kind of movie that really, I don't find, there's nothing intellectually interesting to me about the trailer that makes me want to go see it. But I like James Marsden, and I think he's a deft comedian. I'm sure that's why he took this role. I mean, sure they paid him, and Jim Carrey does look like he delivers a tour de force performance. It looks like it's peak Carrey. At this point in my life, I don't know if that's what I need.
By the way, James Marsden, in not such a great movie, and he didn't. Oh, I mean, that's still a good movie, but he didn't have a really big role. James Marsden in Anchorman 2. I thought he was great in that. All right, what's next?
Murray, can you imagine if the end credit scene was just Rick Roll? That would be epic troll level, and then Cap says patience.
I'll tell you what, I don't know that I ever would have laughed harder in a theater in my entire life. If we got through the credits, things go dark, and then you just hear some ominous music, and then the camera starts to go bright, and then all of a sudden, never gonna give you up plays. I don't think anything could have ever made me laugh harder in a movie. Not appropriate for Endgame, but I will admit I would have laughed harder than ever before. Rob, would you have been giddy or angry if they had done that?
Well, I'll be honest, I was disappointed that there wasn't an end tag.
Me too.
Of some kind. I think that, but I get why they did it. I mean, after having the signatures, can we say that? Well, anyway.
Well, stuff they did in the credits. That was just part of the regular credits.
Yeah, part of the regular credits of the movie. I mean, I thought they did it. It was very elegant, and they don't want to diminish that.
All right, what's next?
Yeah.
Mad 1306. I pre-ordered the Hot Toy, Endgame, Thanos, and Captain America while I'm still waiting for my Black Panther Hot Toy to be delivered next month.
I mean, look, it's a hot toy world. We're all just living it. I would love to have... It would be awesome. Don't get me wrong. I love my Pops, but it would be great if I could remove all my Pops and just have all hot toys back there. But I can't afford that, so I'm not going to do it. But I'm just living vicariously through you guys and Robert. Were you guys getting your hot toys and sending me pictures of your hot toys? I'm just living vicariously through you guys right now. All right, what's next?
RJ Technovine. I really hope Dark Phoenix is a good finale.
Dude, me too. Because listen, I really adore the X-Men films. X-Men 1 is... if you like comic book movies today, you better get on your hands and knees and thank the gods above for X-Men 1, because it's what made it possible. I thought X-Men 2 was even better. Days of Future Past is one of the best ever. Logan. I mean, just what they've done, the Deadpool franchises. And they've had a couple of stinkers along the way. I thought Apocalypse was one of the stinkers. I would love it if they could end this on a high note. It would be great. It is the last film they're doing. I'm not hearing positive things. I don't have a lot of hopes. But Rob, I mean, as film fans, I mean, wouldn't it be great if they could go out on a high note? Like this franchise, which is kind of the responsible for the comic book genre being where it is today, wouldn't it be great if they could go out on a high note?
I certainly agree with you there. I mean, John, in front of IMAX theaters, in front of IMAX showings of Endgame, they've been having a special X-Men Dark Phoenix preview that begins with a montage from all the different X-Men movies.
Oh, nice.
And then leading up to Dark Phoenix. But I just, even reading an article, I read an article this past week about how the end of Dark Phoenix took place in space. And they reshot the whole ending. The last third of the movie was reshot and ended with that train thing that we see in the trailer. And I'm like, well, we saw a train gag in X-Men 1. Magneto pulled a train in half and Wolverine was in there.
We saw a car in Fast and the Furious 1. We don't need to see a car racing in Fast and the Furious 2.
They keep having I'm like, that's what they come
I think you're
with?
nitpicking. I think you're nitpicking on that. I mean, look,
but the Dark Phoenix storyline ended on the moon. It's this giant cosmic in scope, and then let's
just see what they do with the full movie. Let's see don't judge it based on what it is in the comic compared to the screen. Let's just judge the movie on its own merits. And it still sounds like it's pretty bad. It still sounds like it's going to be pretty bad, but we'll see. All right, what's next?
Willow Yang, which would have been more disappointing to you if Endgame sucked or if the whole final season of Game of Thrones?
I'm a bigger fan of the MCU than I am of Game of Thrones. Like I tell you guys, I'm not the hardest of hardcore Game of Thrones fan. I'm really enjoying the show, but I haven't read the books, nor do I ever plan on ever reading the books. Like there are people who are much more hardcore fans of that. I'm more of an MCU fan than I am of Game of Thrones, so I probably would have been more disappointed with a really bad Endgame. At least that's just me personally. All right, what's next?
Darth Southius, recent episode of Twilight Zone has a bratty kid become president. Reminds me why I don't like kids, even though I have 3 of my own. LOL.
I haven't seen any of the Twilight Zone stuff yet, which is weird because I like the people involved, both in front of and behind the screen, behind the scenes. I'm a big fan, even though it was way before my time. I'm a big fan of the original series of Twilight Zone. I'm just shocked I haven't sat down to start watching it yet. But I always love hearing from parents talking about how sometimes it really sucks to be a parent. And by the way, if you want to read a great Twitter feed of a parent who loves his kids, who is constantly complaining about their kids, Ryan Reynolds' Twitter feed. It's great. I've shared this before. One of my favorite tweets of all time comes from Ryan Reynolds. And he's like, talking to my bratty kid, says, "Daddy, where does the sun go when we go to bed?" And he says, "Where all of Daddy's free time went after you were born." Which I thought was one of the greatest things I've ever read. God, I think he's probably an awesome parent. All right, what's next?
Raven 415 2001. I'm paying $5 in the hopes of hearing John sing "My Little Buttercup" again. Maybe Rob will join in. Ashley, if you're there, you look stunning today. Thank you.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know what that is, My Little Buttercup is one of the great moments in a movie filled with great moments. It's Three Amigos with Chevy Chase, Steve Martin, and Martin Short. That movie, if you guys haven't seen Three Amigos, it was a movie of its time, absolutely. But I still find it completely hilarious. And one of the big moments of it is they're in this bar, this old Western bar, and they start singing "My Little Buttercup has the sweetest smile," and everybody in the bar is like stunned. What are you guys doing? Because they thought they were there to perform a show. It's one of the great scenes. Rob, I feel stupid asking, but I don't know you and I have ever talked about it. Have you seen Three Amigos?
Oh, I saw it when it first came out, but I think that was the last time I saw it. I saw it in a theater.
Oh, God, I love that movie. Me and my buddy, Paul Enns, who was like the director of LucasArts for George Lucas and ran StarWars.com for a lot of years, he and I had a few other friends in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada, and we used to play Risk every week. We'd get together, a bunch of buddies, play Risk.
My favorite board game.
My favorite board game, too. We'd play Risk all night, and we'd pop in a movie while we were playing, and at least half the time it was just Three Amigos. We just put in Three Amigos and have it playing as we were playing Risk. Some of my most favorite memories. All right, what's next?
Murray, right? Can somebody fire Chuck as God, please?
I mean, again, going back to the supernatural thing, I've loved the Chuck character, and I just hated Murray. Hated what they did with him in that season finale. It's almost turned me off the show. It didn't yet. I'm still going to watch the final season, believe me, but I really hated that turn they made. It felt so out of character. Anyway, what's next?
Darth Stuthius, I'll say it. Endgame is at top for me. Avengers had me like, this is unreal. Is this really happening? Endgame, however, had me like, you gotta be effing me. Oh shit, what? Wow, no effing way.
Yeah, you know what's funny to me? I've been getting more people than I expected, Rob, writing in to say that the movie just doesn't work for them. Of course, every movie in history will not work for everybody. Godfather had people that don't like it. Bridge Over the River Kwai has people that don't like it. Absolutely, because film is subjective. That was about. So I expected a couple of people not like it. I'm just saying I've been getting a few more than I thought. I think this movie's great. Again, not a number one film for me. For me, it's number 5 on the MCU list, just behind Avengers, Civil War, Winter Soldier, and Infinity War. But above other great MCU films like Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy, I love Ant-Man, Captain America First Avenger, like above all those. So that's where it's kind of settling for me. And I know you are still kind of letting it settle for you, right? It hasn't quite settled for you yet.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love the movie. I think the movie's great, but it's not, what it's doing is it's not the kind of, I've talked about, you can't judge it against, say, the first Iron Man, which I think is a great movie, but Iron Man is a singular experience. This is a film that can only exist because of all of these other movies. So to judge it, to me, the Avengers movies, first of all, I would remove the Avengers movies outside of all the rest of the MCU because they're products of those singular films.
Yeah.
And so when you get into those, I see Avengers Endgame and Infinity War as they're part of, it's like if you like classical music, to give it a classical music reference, the Ring of the Nibelung cycle. There's Das Rheingold and Gute Dämmerung. There's these, they all make up the ring cycle. That's what this is. This is the ring cycle of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Infinity War and Endgame are a symphony. And they're outside, they're different than the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
All right, what's next?
Raven 4. If people think Will looks odd as the genie, just wait till the part of the Prince Ali song when the genie appears as a woman singing on the balcony.
I'm telling you, Prince Ali might actually be my favorite song from Aladdin. I love
pretty
Arabian Nights. I obviously love Never Had a Friend Like Me. But the Prince Ali song might actually be my favorite. And I'm really looking forward to seeing now. Rob, you and I actually saw basically the entire Never Had a Friend Like Me number from Aladdin when we were at CinemaCon, and it was so familiar and so different at the same time. I really enjoyed it.
I did too.
Yeah, and I think everybody in that theater was like nervous about it, and then they played. It was like, this really works.
Yep.
And it's gotten me more excited for numbers like Prince Ali and things like that, and it'll be really interesting. And I've been liking the whole Will Smith more and more as Genie. And will it pay off? Who knows?
Well, like what you said, when we saw that scene, I'm like, oh, I'm sold.
Yeah.
After seeing that, I'm like, oh, I'm in.
Yeah. It was a great mix of familiar, yet totally new and different at the same time.
And so much fun. Cinematically, it was really great looking cinema. It was a lot of fun.
All right, what's next?
Yeah, I think we were all shocked when we first saw Will as the genie, but now that it's becoming more and more familiar and we keep seeing it, I mean, Will Smith is so lovable. Like, he's going to be great. But
I agree.
Yeah, we just need to be more familiar with it. Terrell Wise, MVP of Endgame?
Oh, no, we're not going to answer that. That's going to be getting into discussing
Kevin
details
Feige.
of Kevin Feige. That'll be getting into discussing spoilers when it comes to movies. So sadly, Terrell, we cannot discuss that. All right, what's next?
Bassam F. went to rewatch Endgame last night. The theater played the wrong film 3 times before finally putting on Endgame. This kind of ruined the vibe.
I'm sure the vibe probably recovered a little bit, but it's what happens. Look, think about this. There were how many tens of thousands of screenings of Endgame on its opening weekend, right? Tens of thousands of them. There's a lot of little details that go into making a screening work. Now you think, do your job right, but even if you get it right 99% of the time, that means there were probably hundreds of screenings that might have had little technical problems. What I don't get, though, is I get accidentally playing the wrong movie. I was in a theater that did that once. How do you then put in another wrong movie and then another wrong movie? That seems a little bit odd to me, but I'm glad they finally got around and getting the right movie played. That is really weird, Bassam. Thanks for sharing that.
Weed, probably.
Yeah, lots of weed. All right, what's next?
ETT Media, do you think Endgame will receive any big Academy nominations?
Big ones? Hard to say. I mean, screenplay, I don't think so. Best actor, I don't think so. I know there are some people who are saying Robert Downey Jr. for best actor. I'm not going to go into in detail, but I'm sorry, when I think of best actor and I think of Daniel Day-Lewis in There Will Be Blood, or I think of Daniel Day-Lewis in Lincoln, or I think of Gary Oldman as Churchill, or no, I think he was great, but you know, Hugh Jackman was better in Logan than I think Robert Downey Jr. was in this. I don't know. Again, I think there's a shot for a Best Picture nomination. I don't think it will, but I think there's a shot at that. Rob, just off the top of your head, any of the bigger nominations you think it could zero in on?
I don't think so. Maybe
a lot of technical ones.
A lot of technical awards. Yeah, I mean, I think editing is a big award, but maybe it'll get an editing award. But other than that,
very well
know.
Could. The editing was quite good in this movie. It was really, really good. All right, what's next?
Darth Suthius, I could only see Endgame once. I'll have to wait for home release. I asked my wife for a second viewing, and she said, "Oh no, you're not leaving me home alone with our heathens again." LOL. Fair enough.
Yeah, I could get that. First of all, I mean, having to get out and do that alone when you got kids at home, that's tough. But I'm sure you'll get tons of opportunity once it comes out on home video. You'll have tons of opportunity. That's funny, man. Thanks for sharing that, Darth. All right, what's next?
Victor Rojas. So after the power went out during the movie, it started up within 10 minutes, but I went and watched it again on Sunday. Loved it more the second time around.
Oh yeah, Victor, you wrote in the other day about how the power went out in your theater halfway through. I'm glad they were able to correct that and you were able to watch it again. And you've got plans to go back and watch it again. And thankfully, they got it back up and running fairly quickly. I mean, look, my whole thing, whether it's movie theaters, restaurants, Amazon, any customer service thing is this. Mistakes happen, and I think we as customers need to understand that. The question isn't whether mistakes happen. The question is, what does the company then try to do to correct the mistake? That's how I judge a restaurant or a movie theater or any type of company. It's not, did something bad happen? It's, what did you do to then try to correct it? Because bad things happen. And it really sounds good that they were able to correct that for you, man. Thanks for sharing. All right, what's next?
Victor Rojas, I've been watching you for years, and Friday was my first time writing in. Thanks for what you do, man.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Victor. I appreciate that, and thanks for sharing the story, dude. All right, what's next?
ASMR Junkie, I'll give RDJ a Best Actor nomination as of now.
Not me. I don't get me wrong. I thought Robert Downey Jr. was great. I thought Chris Evans was great. I thought Chris Hemsworth was great. I thought Scarlett Johansson was wonderful. I thought, I mean, there's a lot. Best actor? I don't see that. Again, when I ran off those lists of what are best actor caliber types of performances, I just don't see that in that performance in this particular movie. I don't know, Rob, what do you think? Do you disagree or?
No, I mean, look, it's an ensemble movie, and these characters are playing characters they've been playing for 11 years. They're great at it.
Yeah.
But do we see a performance like in a There Will Be Blood? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. So that doesn't take away from how fun and wonderful I think the movie is.
Right.
But no, I don't think there's the. But that's just me. There's going to be a lot of other people who feel otherwise. All right, what's next?
Patrick Conway, when I was 8, my friend got a pirate DVD from a fair. I went to his house and watched it. It was crap quality. First MCU experience. Pity for crap quality.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things, too, about anybody who watches pirated stuff. It's like, okay, you want to rob yourself of the true experience? I mean, to each their own, I suppose, but I think it's pretty stupid. But, yeah, there it is. But I'm glad you realized that, Patrick. I'm glad you realized that. All right, what's next?
Shaw, the shit I just had looks better than Sonic.
Well, again, I thought the trailer was cuter than I was anticipating. I mean, I think there's some possible redeeming qualities in there. I like the Jim Carrey thing as Robot. I love the conversation he was. What's the name of that actor? McDonough? I think that's the name of the actor.
Neil McDonough,
yeah. Yeah, I love that little conversation he was having with her. I thought that was cute. Again, though, it doesn't mean the movie's going to be any good. It probably isn't. But hey, man, we'll have to wait and see. Maybe look. I thought Lego was a stupid idea, and it ended up being great. So maybe this is the next Lego. Maybe it's the next Smurfs. We'll find out soon enough. All right, what's next?
Troy Strauss, GOT probably won't happen, but Danny could call in her reserves. Has the second son's third of her forces holding down the fort in Marine. Just an idea.
It's possible. I mean, look, I don't want to go into too many details with the episode because there are probably still some people who haven't watched the latest episode of that. But there was near the beginning what everybody's calling the dumbest military tactic ever put to screen. And for those of you who've seen the movie, you know exactly what we're talking about. We're seeing the show. You know exactly what they're talking about. One of the opening things they do is one of the absolute dumbest military tactics ever. But maybe there was some method behind the madness there. It's quite possible, Troy. Let's keep our eyes on that. All right, what's next?
SX times Envy. Les Mis coming to Pantages next month. So excited.
Yep, got my tickets, brother. Ann and I got our tickets. Ann actually bought us, because she wants to culture us, I guess, and bought us season passes Pantages. But it's been great. I got to go see, Hamilton and Waitress. Oh my God, guys. If you haven't seen the stage version of Waitress, watch it. It's great. Like, it's really, really, really good. But anyway, so every month we get to go see a new one, and yep, Les Mis is coming. Got our tickets. I can't wait to see it. All right, what's next?
That's awesome. My boo, DC movies have 110 plot holes compared to Endgame, a tenth of the plot holes compared to Endgame. I like both, but why does it feel like DC is judged more harshly?
Because of the overall quality and experience of the film. I mean that's just the thing. The overall look. I put out a social media post that said this: Avengers Endgame. I've never seen a movie. I've never enjoyed a movie with so many plot holes so damn much. Because were there plot holes? Yes. But at the end of the day, they really didn't detract from the overall cinematic experience of the movie, which was really thrilling and exciting and all that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, for a lot of people, critics and fans, the DC films failed to deliver that. And the tone, the dark tone of the movies, that's a misnomer. It's just because of the plot. No, that's a misnomer. If you deliver the overall experience, there's a lot of little problems that will be covered up and forgiven. Unfortunately, look, I enjoy the DC. You guys know this. I enjoy the DC films that we've had so far, but a lot of those first 5 or 6 of them didn't deliver the experience that these movies has delivered, and that's what the final word. That's the bottom line, man. If you deliver look, I say this all the time. If you're doing a comedy, you can do everything wrong in a comedy. Everything wrong. If you make the audience laugh consistently throughout the film, it doesn't matter. All is forgiven. It covers a multitude of sins, to get biblical on you. If you make the audience laugh. Horror, you can do everything wrong in a horror movie. But if you deliver the jumps and the scares and the fright and the fear, everything else will be forgiven. And I think in a movie like Endgame, even if they did everything wrong, which they didn't, but even if they did, if you deliver the thrills and the excitement and the experience and the roller coaster, if you deliver all that and deliver it well, then it forgives a lot. And that's just something that the Marvel films have done that the DC films unfortunately have not done for a lot of people. And to me, that's kind of the bottom line and the issue, boo. All right, just time for a couple more questions here. What's next?
Johnny 5, drive-ins came up yesterday. There's one 10 minutes from me in Connecticut. They also hold flea markets and concerts to stay running. They screened Raiders once under the moonlit sky. It took me back in time.
Look, we talked about drive-ins yesterday. I love drive-ins, although I never go anymore. I wish I did. They are great experiences. Somebody wrote in, Robert, talking about when we were talking about drive-ins that, as a parent with kids, drive-ins are awesome. And I said, yeah, because if you got a kid and you're worried about other people's experience and maybe your kid gets a little rowdy, what a great idea, the driving, because your kid's in your car. If the kid's getting too rowdy, put him in the backseat with a bunch of toys, let him go, whatever. It is such a great thing. It's been at least 10 years for me, Robert. When's the last time you were at a drive-in?
Oh my God, it's a long time, but where I grew up, there was a few, and I went, but I have to say, I just didn't get a lot of movie watching done.
What about you, Ashley? You ever didn't get a lot of... Well, we can infer tons of things from that. Ashley, when's the last time you were at a movie theater?
At a drive-in?
Yeah.
I said it before yesterday. I mean, it's been years. I think since I was like little when I went with my parents. But yeah, nice idea, but I just never go.
All right, what's next?
ZCM Zombie Custom Maps, RIP Singleton, Boys in the Hood is one of my faves.
Way too young, man. Way too young, and what a tragedy and what a loss, and like all the stuff he was like, not only he made his footprint in movies, he was making a big footprint in television as well. And it really is a loss. All right, what's next?
Same guy. Did you hear about the high school alien play?
Yeah, so this has been going around a lot, that there's this high school that did a stage play of Aliens, and then Sigourney Weaver, I guess, even went to it, and now apparently they've put it up on YouTube.
Yep.
I still haven't seen it. Rob, have you had a chance to see it?
I've watched some of it. It's pretty incredible. I mean, that it's a high school play production of the first Alien, and Ridley Scott gave it his blessing. I mean, it's pretty astonishing. Kudos to if there's that kind of creativity going on in the youth of America today, we're all gonna be okay.
All right, what's next?
And shout out to some of my friends who did a thing for Fox where a bunch of filmmakers could make short films. And
oh, that's right.
One
yes.
of my friends did it, and a lot of my friends are in it. So I'll talk about that later. But Terrell Wise, could Thor survive if he used the gauntlet?
We're not going to go into that because that could get into spoiler territory. All right, what's next?
My boo calls for reboot equals one DC movie per year. Wish they kept going.
Calls for reboot. Well, I don't know. They had to change directions, boo. I mean, look, the bottom line is this. I can like all the DC movies, and I can give positive reviews to all the DC movies, which I have. I've enjoyed them. Some of them had some major problems, but I still enjoyed them overall. And you can enjoy them. That's great. But what you and I cannot deny is the fact that they were not getting the results they wanted. They simply were not getting the result. So you and I can sit back and go, oh, they should have just kept going. The definition of insanity is continuing the same process and expecting different results. You can't just say, I'll just keep going and somehow magically the audience will just start to love them magically. You can't keep doing the same thing and expect that you're going to get different results. They weren't going to get different results. They had to start changing. Now, I thought they should have done a clean reboot. Walter Hamada came in. He decided there's other ways we can make this work, and we're going to do something else. We're going to change gears. We're going to go individual film focused. We're going to bring a bit more of an entertaining tone to it. And what they do, they gave us Aquaman. Became the first DC cinematic universe film to make the $1 billion club. Then they gave us Shazam. I think Shazam's even better than Aquaman. What do we got coming up next? We got Wonder Woman being directed by Patty Jenkins, so I'm just going to assume that thing's going to be great too. They are clearly on a right path right now. And I think they had to change directions, man. Whether that meant rebooting or going to something like this for now, they're going to evolve and go, but I think it was the right move. Rob, just bottom line. Should they have just kept going, or did they need to make a change at this point?
No, I think they needed to make a change. I mean, clearly, look, there was a disconnect between the filmmaking and the executives. And I think now there's now synergy between the filmmakers they brought. That's why they brought back Patty Jenkins. They've got James Gunn doing Suicide Squad. They've changed it up. Walter Hamada made that change, and it seems to be working. We'll see. But it seems to be going well, and people like these movies that are coming out. And Aquaman's a perfect example of that.
All right, we're going to wrap things up here with this final question today. What's next?
I'm upset. Do you think Nick Cage can back a comeback?
Probably meant make a comeback.
Yes.
Look, if there's one thing we've learned about the movie audiences love a comeback story. They do. Nick Cage is a popular name. First of all, he is one hell of an actor. There's a reason he's got statues on his mantle. There's a reason for that. And by the way, the biggest difference between Kick-Ass 1 and Kick-Ass 2 was the lack of Big Daddy and Nick Cage. Nick Cage was so good as Big Daddy in Kick-Ass, it's crazy. He's a spectacular actor. Is there now too much baggage attached to him? I think it's possible. I'm not going to sit here and predict that what's going to happen, but I think it's possible. Rob?
Absolutely. I mean, and by the way, it's not like Nick Cage isn't working.
Well,
he just
yeah,
hasn't
not
been
in the best stuff.
You know, he hasn't been in a big movie the same way Bruce Willis. A lot of these guys, they got to eat. So they're working. And I think, all it takes is one filmmaker and one great idea to bring a character back, like what Boogie Nights did to Burt Reynolds.
Oh, that's a great example. All right, guys, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Listen, for everybody who's still outstanding questions, Rodrigo, Murray, Jackie, Kian, all the way down. Don't worry, I'm going to do a companion video a little bit later this afternoon that's going to answer all the questions you got sent in. They will be answered in a video today. Keep your eyes open for that. We just ran out of time for right now. I want to thank, of course, everybody who's here with me. First of all, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, where can people find you online?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM, find me on Instagram at RMBurnett, or find me on my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work, and its companion website, theburnettwork.net.
And of course, Ashley Whalen is here. Ashley, where can people find you?
You guys can find me on my Twitter at AshleyTech1, or my Instagram is Ashley Whalen.
And you guys can, of course, follow me on social media simply at John Campea. That'll do it for us for now, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Listen, while you're here, don't forget, take a second, click that subscribe button, become subscribers. Make sure you click the thumbs up on this video. And the most important thing is jump down to the comment section below and add to the conversation about movies. Just remember, when you do it, you're talking to fellow film fans. So just make sure you keep that in mind. That'll do it for now. My name's John Campea, and until our next episode, guys, bye-bye.